John Solomon, welcome to the program, sir. How are you?
It is great to be with you, Glenn. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. I want to start with this premise, and I know you're the same way. I really don't care about the politics at this point. Politics will follow later. I want to know the truth. And if I'm reading the Washington Post or New York Times, they're saying, this is not news. These are all fake. These were all Russian tools, put out to discredit Hillary Clinton. And so we shouldn't pay any attention. Tell me what was released and what you think at this point is true and not true.
Yeah, so what was put out yesterday is called the appendix, the classified appendix to John Durham's final report, the special prosecutor who looked at Russiagate. This is something he couldn't release publicly because it involved highly classified intercepts that the United States government had. These intercepts are of Russian spies, the GRU and other Russian spy agencies, and this has been a very successful program. There are multiple ways we intercept the Russian spies, but over the years we've used this to make very major decisions about Russia. So the information is deemed to relatively be reliable. In fact, James Comey thought it was so reliable for this program that he used information from this program to rush out and wave his magic wand and decide that on his own, though he wasn't the Attorney General, he would clear Hillary Clinton of wrongdoing in the scandal. Why? Because the Russian intercepts suggested that Loretta Lynch was part of an effort to fix the case, and he didn't want that to happen, so he fixed the case himself. And so we've acted on it. We've acted on this intelligence over the years. In July of 2016, Durham says the United States government intercepted information saying that the Russians had found out that Hillary Clinton had developed a plan and personally approved it to hang a fake Russian shingle on Donald Trump's campaign house, basically accuse him of being a Vladimir Putin stooge, maybe be involved in the hacking of the Democratic National Committee computers. And it was deemed so credible that John Brennan ran and briefed Barack Obama. And then he briefed the entire senior leadership, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, James Comey, James Clapper, and, of course, John Brennan himself was the recipient of the information, so his agency did it. Rather than investigate it, rather than use it as a reason to be dubious when Christopher Steele walks his dossier in or Michael Sussman walks in his Alpha Bank baloney, they actually lean into it. They actually decide they're going to investigate these allegations as real, even though there was enormous reason to be paused. Now, in these information, there are purported emails in which someone in the George Soros world writes, hey, I just got told that Hillary Clinton's going to hang the shingle and the FBI is going to participate in it. Now, he denies he wrote the email.
Well, wait. He says, I don't remember writing it.
No.
One of the lines kind of sounds like me, but I have no recollection of it. Or did he actually say, absolutely false, I didn't do it?
Yeah, he said, I wouldn't have used language like that. I didn't write that email. He does. Now, Jake Sullivan's a little bit different. Jake Sullivan is, I don't remember it, but I can't rule it out. So Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor to both Clinton and Biden over the years, has a little bit different. But as you walk through this, the intelligence community ultimately decides that this is probably not a fabrication. The FBI does so in 2017. Now, doesn't stop them from continuing to investigate the bogus Russia collusion back, but they decide that this intelligence is likely not fabricated. The CIA believes that it's likely predictive. Now, the way the program works, sometimes the Russian spies will fabricate in some way the detail. They'll make it look like it's an email, but it's really a summary. So we're aware of that. But what we generally know is whatever we get from the program is probably accurate, even if it's not an exact replica of an email or an exact replica of a text message. And so both the intelligence community said there's likely, the FBI and the CIA, that this is not fabricated. It probably is reliable information. And history will tell us that what we intercepted actually happened. Hillary Clinton did exactly what we know. They authorized the Steele dossier. They authorized the Sussman Alpha Bank stuff. They went out on the news media and tried to paint Donald Trump as a fake Russian stooge for Vladimir Putin when he wasn't. And I want to point out the most important evidence that the early intelligence people realized looked like the Russians either were fortune tellers or they knew and had intercepted a real plan. One of the early intercepts is that what's going to happen is Hillary Clinton has approved this plan, and then we're reaching out to Joe Biden for Joe Biden to take the lead on this. Well, guess what happens? Within 24 hours of that intercept, Joe Biden goes out, and he's the very first major Democrat to go suggest that Donald Trump's got a problem with Russia, that he's a stooge, and that he's going to be bad for America, and that he's owned by Vladimir Putin. How would the Russians know that? How would they guess that and just know that that would happen? How would they know that the FBI was going to open up a case in a few days? So when the intelligence community looked back at this, the actual events of what played out with Hillary Clinton looks like exactly what the Russians knew in advance, and that's why they gave great credence to the idea that whether a specific email is accurate or not, the general information the Russians had intercepted likely occurred.
So then why did Durham bury this stuff? Because what they're saying is they had all this stuff. Durham was, this is under the Trump administration. Why didn't this come out if it was so real? They're just doing a hatchet job on, Hillary and Obama. I mean, the New York Times said the reason why this is out is because he's trying to avoid his name being, in the Epstein files or whatever.
That's right.
So why didn't we come out with this? Why are we just hearing about it now?
Well, in fairness, there were parts of you had to work hard because John Durham's team was not a good writing team, but the original report in the unclassified version had a lot of this, and I wrote about it a couple of years ago, and I spent the last 2 years trying to get this declassified. And when I brought President Trump on my show a couple of weeks ago, I asked him, he said, I'll do it. And 2 weeks later, he gave it to Chuck Grassley. So he did what we asked him to do. I have been advocating for the release of the classified version for 2 years. You could tell there was something very important. John Durham generally talks about the Clinton Plan Initiative. Most reporters didn't see it as significant. I did. And I think now we see why it's significant, which is the FBI had a very good reason not to investigate Steele's dossier based on this intercept. It had a very good reason not to go to the FISA court and seek fake surveillance warrants. It had a very good reason not to bring the United States through the trauma of what we call Russiagate, but they chose not to do it. And it's the same FBI that a few months earlier had used the same Russian intelligence intercept program to take concrete actions in the Hillary Clinton case. So when it's beneficial to a Democrat, they treat the Russian intelligence as real, and when it's detrimental to a Democrat, they try to dismiss it as Russian disinformation. I'll just say this. History shows in the last few years when the New York Times tells you that something is true or not true on Russia, they've been generally wrong a lot. And when Democrats call something Russian disinformation like the Hunter Biden laptop, we should all be a little dubious. That is going on right now. That machinery of the New York Times and the Democrats are back to the Hunter Biden language. We should be dubious. We should get to the facts. One of the things in the New York Times story this morning completely omitted. In the Durham report, it says that the FBI concluded that these were likely not fabrications. You think the New York Times would put that in their story, but I couldn't find it in there.
No, it's not. It's not. John, give me the best argument on their side that should cause you to pause and go, well, maybe this isn't right. Can you find what is the best? Go ahead.
Yeah, John Durham never found an email, though he had access to subpoenas and other things. He never found an email that matches the one that is attributed to the Soros Foundation. He did find others, and he found language in other emails that were sent that are identical, but just not from this guy. Now, that is something that happens a lot with the Russians. They know that we're spying on them, so sometimes they mix things up. They intentionally say this came from Joe when it came from John, so that if we do intercept it, we think it's misinformation, but in fact they haven't. So John Durham ultimately concludes that these were probably compilations of real intelligence. By the way, that's a very important thing. John Durham says, all right, it doesn't matter if the emails are exactly from who they say they are. The intelligence in them is likely to have been true.
So this is another reason why I felt that these were credible when they first, before I even read any of it. I started reading some of the summaries of them and commentaries about them, and the left was immediately saying it's old, it doesn't matter, it was 10 years ago, and I thought, wow, right. Russian disinformation, and it doesn't matter anyway. That's usually the sign that it's
we've heard
really
that
dangerous.
Song. It's going to be a country song someday.
Right.
Yeah.
What makes this different than all of the other stuff that doesn't go anywhere?
Well, listen, it may not be different, and that will be the legacy of this era, that we unraveled one of the worst political scandals in history, and we really couldn't hold anyone accountable.
Why do you say this? Wait.
Yep.
Why do you say this is one of the worst political scandals in American history? That's quite a statement.
It is, because in no other time in history have we found a U.S. intelligence and FBI apparatus used to carry out a political dirty trick. Listen, they knew the Steele dossier was fake. They just said they continued to use it to spy and mislead the FISA court. They knew that the career officials of the intelligence committee didn't think Vladimir Putin was trying to help Donald Trump win the election, and they overruled them and rewrote the report. Those are incredible abuses. These are the most powerful tools we give the U.S. intelligence community and the FBI. They're supposed to only be used to go after our enemies, terrorists, intelligence threats to America. And in this era, from the 2016 to 2019 timeframe, we see those communities are being used to carry out political missions, to denigrate a political opponent, to falsely call true evidence of wrongdoing against a Democrat, the Hunter Biden laptop disinformation, to use the FISA court to spy on your political enemy, submitting to it to get that permission, unreliable and inaccurate information. That is one of the greatest abuses. In past times, we've had a lot of abuses in intelligence communities, things like we tortured people and we did things. Here, the abuse is the American people. The intelligence tools were used to carry out a political dirty trick designed to deceive the American public about who they elected and who they might elect. And I think that's why it's such a big scandal. You have to get to 30,000 feet to look at it. You can get into the weeds and then it gets complicated. But the FBI and CIA were used to deceive the American people and to potentially thwart the will after they elected Donald Trump. That's something we can't allow to happen again.
John, thank you. Thank you for everything you do. I know I say this to you every time, but you're one of the few guys I really trust, and I appreciate all the hard work you do. Thank you.
That means a lot. Thank you, Glenn.
You bet. Bye-bye. John Solomon, Just the News. If you don't read Just the News every day, you should. It's great. They are on top of the stories that actually matter, and John is a guy who is fair. I know, because he'll piss me off at times. He'll say things, he'll report things, and I'll be like, no, I want it to be true. I want the other side to be true. And that's how you know. You know, people ask me all the time, how do you know who to trust? Well, I look for people that will say things on both sides, and they will say, this is true, this is not true, and you're not always happy with what they have to say.